Hi, this is Dan Adams and Brian Gongol for the WHO Radio Wise Guys. This is our bonus video after the show kind of thing that we're doing here today. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to cover some things that we didn't get a chance to really talk a lot about on our radio show. First of all, AOL reported that they're cutting 900 jobs worldwide, 20% of their workforce. First of all, I didn't know anybody still used AOL.
Well, people are still using it.
Once in a blue moon, I will come across somebody with an AOL email address.
Yeah. You
used to see these all the time. Remember the CDs that you used to get with every magazine and mail and stuff?
I know people who hung them from trees and used them to scare off birds.
Yeah. Of course, they don't do that kind of stuff anymore, but AOL is cutting 20% of their workforce right now because nobody uses their service anymore. You know, they spent $315 million last year to buy the Huffington Post because they want to be this leader in content, online content.
Yeah.
And it's obviously not working out for them. They're just shrinking so small. In 2004, AOL had 20,000 employees, okay? Now they're down to 3,500 worldwide. Nobody is using AOL. AOL is going to be gone here in another year or so. I predict this.
I don't know if it'll be gone entirely because it's very difficult for any of these services to go away entirely, but I would be surprised if we saw AOL in much of a enduring form for much more than another couple of years.
I think somebody has flushed the toilet and the water's spinning, boy. It's just picking up.
I'm going to zoom in here on you doing the spinning motion with your hands.
Spinning down, spiraling down. I know this feeling. You know why? Because I used to work for a company like this.
Okay.
All right. Moving on.
Moving on. We move on to private data on junked computers.
This is hilarious, and only in New Jersey. Well, I shouldn't say only in New Jersey.
I was going to say it's definitely not only in New Jersey.
No, it's not. This happens more and more. In New Jersey, though, they were getting rid of state-owned computers.
Mm-hmm.
Just selling them off their old surplus stuff, send them to auction or whatever.
Right.
Well, guess what they forgot to do? They forgot to wipe the hard drives clean.
Oops.
Yeah, and big deal, you say? Well, there's Social Security numbers, there's tax records, there's personal notes from a judge on one of the computers.
Oh, dear.
That they found. There's child abuse records they found on one of the computers. So, yeah, that's kind of important. Let's make sure we wipe the hard drives clean. Now, I personally have gone to state computer sales in town here and bought computers to use for some test machines, and they came with no hard drive. They just they take the hard drives out.
That's the way it ought to be. That's really the way it ought to be.
It absolutely is the way it ought to be. And they have machines now that will actually magnetically wipe the data from the hard drive and then literally shred the hard drive, the physical hard drive itself, just like a paper shredder.
Right.
I mean, they don't want anybody getting this information. And that's the way it should be.
Well, let's just take a quick detour here. We've got computers sitting underneath our desks here at WHO. And see, this is the front of the computer people are familiar with a desktop-type computer. That's fine. That's pretty ordinary. Now, up top you have your CD drive, and that's totally ordinary. Down here you've got, we probably need to, but nobody sees it really except for this one video. And then we've got your ports for things like your USB drives and sort of and things like that. Now, in the back, though, you also have your access to where you take off the cover to the computer here. Nobody comes back here, you can see.
Brian Gongol's on the floor right now.
I am crawling around the floor, but you can see there are a couple of screws here on the back of any of these computers. When you take off the screws that are on the back, you can actually have access to the hard drive itself. Take the hard drive out of any computer that you were ever to sell, give away, whatever you do. It's going to be tucked back there. You can see the fans and things are here, but you can see we've got the screws along the sides here that you can use to remove them. Take the cover off, get inside, and pull the hard drive out. Otherwise, you could be putting yourself at some serious risk. So I would generally recommend that you remove those whenever humanly possible.
Very important to do that.
Well, it's just a way to prevent identity theft against you, prevent identity theft against others. Just don't make it easier for crooks to take advantage of you.
And that's the thing. People don't think about this kind of stuff. And, one of the biggest stories I've read recently, too, is selling used copy machines.
Yep, they sometimes have records.
From businesses, they have hard drives in them that store those images.
Yep.
And companies were not taking those hard drives out and wiping them clean. You got to be careful with this kind of stuff.
Absolutely, and it's not just on the desktop machines like we just showed you. It's on laptops as well. Always, I would just always remove the hard drive before you sell or give away a computer.
Yeah, I highly recommend sticking it in the oven at 500 degrees for a half an hour.
I don't think you should do that because it might release chemicals that you don't want to breathe in.
Okay, that could be bad, yeah.
Yeah, so just remove them and just put them in a box or somewhere and store them in your house. Don't just get rid of them, though. That's the key here. Don't leave them around. Don't let your private data get stolen. Next up, WHO Radio is now on iHeartRadio for Android. Use an Android phone now, Dan? Yes?
I do.
Got your
Right
Droid
here.
X. It's Droid X, right?
This is my beautiful Droid X. You see the, notice my gestures here? I used to be
It's like
one of the
your Vanna
showgirls
White
on The Price is Right.
Yeah,
See?
it's great.
Yeah.
And I'm using a Droid-based HTC Desire. Either way, they're Android-based phones. We brand new now have WHO Radio on iHeartRadio for the Android.
At least once or twice a week, I get an email of people asking me, how come I can't get WHO on iHeartRadio?
That's because we were not available. We didn't have the encoding system required to get you onto iHeartRadio. We do now. And the way you get to that is going to whoradio.com. Over here in the upper right-hand corner, you've got a link that says 750-plus stations. You click on that thing, it'll take you through to good old-fashioned iHeartRadio. You can check it out there, or, of course, you can just go to the Android Marketplace and download it from there. But, again, Android now available, streaming available, at least now for WHO Radio on iHeartRadio. Finally,
Very cool.
We want to give you a hand, though, with helping out, if you'd like, with the disaster in Japan. How to do that without becoming a scam victim.
Whoops.
Don't answer your phone. How about that?
Well, you know, of course, you know, there's so many things going on right now trying to help the victims of the earthquake and the tsunami in Japan, and a lot of countries are sending help, and, you know, we as individuals, we can help also. You got to be very careful when you go online and you start researching some of this stuff. The U.S. Computer Emergency Readiness Team, or US-CERT, told computer users to be wary of potential email scams, fake antivirus, and phishing attacks, meaning that if you go to some of these websites that aren't legit, they're going to try to get your information and use it against you at some point in time. This is one of the ways that identity theft happens. So
Absolutely.
You got to be careful. Just go to known websites. You know, probably the best one to go to right now is redcross.org. They do a lot of great things. They have teams of people on the ground, you know, and more on the way to help victims over in northern Japan right now. So if you'd like to help, it's as simple as going to redcross.org and making a donation.
Yeah, perfectly reasonable thing to do. And in fact, it's good of you to try to help, but don't get yourself scammed in the process. Again, by that, you go to known sites. You go to trusted providers of things like that.
Yeah. And we do encourage all of our listeners here on the WHO Radio Wise Guys to help any way you can. But be careful. Be very careful.
You know, and frankly, my view on this is gone that I've seen enough disasters over the course of the years that now what I just do is I make an annual donation to a disaster recovery service. I do it to Catholic Relief Services, but again, a trusted provider. And I just give them the same amount of money every year because I figure, you know what, they're going to use it every single year.
Absolutely.
So this way it's planned and I know it's there.
Yeah, Mother Nature is always going to remind us that she is there and watching.
And nature's out to kill us, so that's just how things are. It's true. Nature doesn't want us alive, it wants us dead. We're the WHO Radio Wise Guys. I'm Brian Gongol.
I'm Dan Adams.
And we are checking out of here. We appreciate you visiting us online at whoradio.com. We'll be on the air Saturday at 1 o'clock Central Time. And that's available online at whoradio.com, or you can listen to us over the air 10:40 a.m. if you're in central Iowa. We also have podcasts available there and obviously videos as well. Thanks for joining us this week.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week, like Brian said, and we'll do it all again. Thanks.